Hello everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the BRSO Discovery Concert Series. We're so excited you could join us today, and on stage behind me, you're going to see the second of the families of the orchestra, the Woodwind family. So here we have a Wind Quintet on stage, and it's made up of the flute, the clarinet, the bassoon, the French horn, and the oboe. Now, each of these instruments does a very unique job in the orchestra. For example, the oboe, when you go to an orchestra concert, the oboe is responsible for presenting the note A, and that is what we all tune to. For example, Johanna, could you play the A so we know what that sounds like? So that's a very important job because she sets the whole tone for the orchestra to tune to. And so we all tune to that instrument, and then on this side, we're going to talk about the instruments that we have here. On this flute, you're going to notice something different from all the other woodwind instruments. This instrument, you actually have to blow across the mouthpiece to make the air inside the instrument vibrate, and that's how the sound comes out. Let's listen to just a little bit of the flute. Now you also notice the flute is the highest instrument in the whole woodwind family, but there is one instrument that can go even higher. Listen to a little bit of the piccolo. Wow, so high. Now, the next instrument I want to introduce you to is the clarinet, and the clarinet has a really beautiful tone color that we call timbre. Can you guys say timbre at home? Good job, timbre. Now, the clarinet has a very dark color to it, but it can also have a very bright color to it. So maybe we can get Tyler to play something very dark to bright, maybe low to high. Yeah, so you can hear the difference between the timbre with the flute, which is very bright, and then you have the clarinet. It was actually very darker, much darker color. Now, in the center, I want to introduce you to the largest instrument in the woodwind family, the bassoon. Now, what did we learn already about larger instruments? That means they can play lower notes, right? So take a listen to how low a bassoon can play. And also, let's also take a listen to that timbre of the bassoon. This is what we describe as a little bit like an earthy sound to it, or a very reedy sound, we call it. Listen one more time to the timbre of the bassoon. Yeah, very unique color to the orchestra. Next, we actually have an instrument that belongs in the brass family, but when we have a woodwind quintet, it joins this family. It's the French horn. And the first thing you'll notice about the French horn is everybody would like to know about its shape. It's all twisted up into all kinds of curly cues, okay? But if we were to take that French horn, and Lauren and I were to take it and stretch it all the way out across the stage, it would be about 17 feet long. It's a very long instrument. Now, the sound, you're going to notice, comes out of the back end of the French horn, where we call the bell. And then Lauren uses the mouthpiece to make her sounds, except it's very different from the woodwinds because she has to buzz her lips through that mouthpiece. But let's first hear the timbre of the French horn. See, the French horn is also capable of a dark tone too, so it fits really well into a woodwind quintet. That's why they can all fit together nicely. Now, on the edge here, we've got the oboe, which we met earlier, and the oboe has a very also unique color to its sound. Let's hear a little bit of the timbre of the oboe. Okay, now the last thing I want to point out about these woodwind instruments is we talked about Rachel having to blow across the instrument on the flute to make it sound. And then we also talked about Lauren having to buzz her lips on that instrument to make it sound on the French horn. The oboe and the bassoon and the clarinet are what we call reed instruments. Now, Tyler, on the back of his clarinet, you might be able to see it and you might not, but it's got a single piece of reed in there, okay? And what happens is that reed vibrates when Tyler blows the air through it, and that's what makes the sound come out of the clarinet. The oboe and the bassoon, they're called double reed instruments. And what that means is they have to actually make their reeds, and they spend a lot of time doing this because it's very hard to do. And to get the right sound and the right reed to work just perfectly, it's similar to maybe when you're sitting in a field of grass and you try to pull out two pieces of grass and you try to blow through them and make them whistle, except 100 million times harder than that. Very complicated. But when they get the right one, then it works for their instrument just perfectly. And that's what they're always striving for. Well, today, they just pulled their reeds out. They wanted to do something called crowing. Let's hear that again. Yeah, that's how they check their reeds to make sure that they're working just perfectly. Okay, well, this Woodwind Quintet would like to play you a piece by a composer named Ligeti. Can you guys say Ligeti at home? Ligeti. That's the name. This is a composer from the 20th century. He just died actually in 2006. They're going to play a piece called the 6 Bagatelles. And that means a bagatelle, I think, is a dance. So they're going to play 2 movements from this piece. And it's going to sound a lot different from the piece that we heard just yesterday from our string quintet. So listen to this.